After 35 years, the 1955 Chrysler Ghia Falcon concept car returns to the Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance on August 17, 2025.
Hi, I'm Joe Bortz. I'm very honored to be here and to be able to give a little seminar here on the Chrysler Ghia cars. I've probably owned about 10 of them, and they're very exciting for their design and sometimes mounted on some of Chrysler's very exciting chassis, such as the Chrysler 300 chassis, and of course the designs by Virgil Exner are always outstanding. More background on myself. I've been collecting cars in a very serious way for over 50 years, and I went through various phases of car collecting, classic cars and cars of the 50s and 60s in general, and then Ferraris. But I ended up on my favorite subject matter, and that was collecting concept cars. Not many people knew in the 70s that concept cars existed because all the books said that they were crushed. And then later I was able to find out early in the game, which was a big advantage in getting them, that they actually were around by some of the people who were able to snatch them up from the various companies. While we'll be having a conversation with Virgil Exner Jr., and I'd like to tell you about the very first Ghia car that I collected. That was the 1954 Thomas Special. It was restored by Fran Roxas twice, and I was very fortunate in being able to buy it from Fran. It was an absolutely exquisite car, and the restoration was beautiful, and it was one of the first Ghia cars that I showed at Pebble Beach either in 1989 or 1990. Ken Gross suggested that he would like me to tell about some of the cars, the Ghia cars that I was able to have in my collection. He also wanted me to do a little interview with Virgil Exner Jr. And at this moment, I'm going to introduce a telephone conversation with Virgil Exner. So without further ado, I'll start the voice telephone call with Virgil Exner, and hope you enjoy it. We're going to place a call here to Virgil Exner Jr. to talk about information about his father being involved with Chrysler and designing the forward look and the concept cars that were built at Ghia. So, Virgil, I have you on the phone now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great, great. Would you say was the first time that your father was known to draw a car?
Well, probably when he was about 6 or 7 years old, and very much under the influence of my grandparents and my grandfather, who was a machinist at Chrysler Equipment Company, and who was a very avid car enthusiast, racing car enthusiast himself, and he more or less promoted or gave my father the idea of actually participating in car design.
And in 1957, your father came out with what was known as the forward look. And how did he get that idea to do the forward look?
Well, basically, it was because of primarily the World War II and aircraft, especially fighter airplanes, and the idea of bringing aerodynamics strongly to automobile design.
I once talked to Dave Holes, and he told me that in 1956, in the end, when they were starting to have the forward look cars come out of the factory and go into the lot getting ready for delivery, the guys from GM went over there and they climbed on top of a car that they brought over to look over the fence, which was all blocked off, and they could see the cars coming out. And Dave Hull said to me, he said, I knew we were screwed. Those cars looked so great, and what we had didn't even compare to it. I knew we were going to have a rough year.
Well, that was that was a real great experience for my father when we heard about that, and he got a big kick out of that. And of course, he had worked for GM and Harley Earl for before he wound up going to Studebaker and then to Chrysler. Really thought that was pretty good that they were really copying his basic design philosophy.
Did you ever drive the Falcon or at all?
Yes, very much so.
Oh.
And, my father would bring home those show cars from Chrysler. Experience was with the DeSoto Adventurer.
Right. I was told that was the car that your dad actually owned and drove and has never been found.
I cannot remember where the Adventurer is now. But yes, I drove it a lot. Also used it to drag a race up and down Woodward Avenue in Detroit, and dated with it. And I loved that car. It was great.
And we're talking about the DeSoto Adventurer 1 that has never been found. And if you ever find it, make sure you tell me. I'll be right there buying it. But there is a DeSoto Adventurer 2, and that is in the hands of a collector right now.
Yes, I understand that. Well, if you find that Adventurer 1, I'll buy it myself.
Thank Virgil Exner for that. And now I'm going to, I think, use the list of concept cars, the Chrysler Ghia concept cars that were going to be at the show, and see which ones I'd like to make comments on. And the first one is the 52 Chrysler D'Elegance, one of my favorites. And I had an opportunity to purchase that car. It was in California early on in the game. But me and another gentleman got into a bidding war, and finally the other gentleman that was bidding against me told the seller he'd pay the same price as I was paying and buy him a brand new Cadillac, and that got him the car. Interesting story on the 1954 DeSoto Adventure. It belonged to a gentleman who at that time was very old, and he was a ex-DeSoto dealer, and he ended up with the car. And I tried to buy it from him, and eventually he got so old that he had turned the sale over to his son, and the son gave me the price as followed. He said, I want the price to be enough money for my father to live for the rest of his life and not have any need for any money except for the sale of the car. And I remember my response was, I hope your father is either has a very low standard of living or he's very old. And I don't think the gentleman appreciated that. His son didn't appreciate it, so that's a car he didn't get. It's a wonderful, wonderful car. I love that car. The 1954 Dodge Fire Arrow convertible. That's a car that I owned. I found it. It was in exceptionally rusty condition. It was so rusty that when I got it and it was delivered, I opened up the hood. The hood folded in half. I used it eventually for trading material, and as I understand it, it went to California and was completely rebodied. All the body and the parts were there, but it was very rusty, and I've seen pictures of it in recent years, and it came out really beautiful. The 1954 Plymouth Explorer, I bought that early in the game, must have been in the very early 70s, came out of Norway, and it had a Jaguar engine in it. And again, I used that for trading material. Went to California, and I believe it was restored out there and now is in the Peterson Museum. So it looks very, very nice. The 1966 Duesenberg by Virgil Exner was really a masterpiece. It was, when I first saw it, it was at the Auburn Court Duesenberg Museum. It was owned by a gentleman named Sam. And I think the following year, after I first saw it, I met Sam. We became very good friends. And his famous words were, "That's your car in my garage." And every year he'd say, "Next year I'm going to sell it to you." And then I'd see him at the ACD meet, and he'd say, "Next year I'm going to sell it to you." And it was on display again at the Auburn Court Duesenberg Museum for years. And I think it was about 20 years later, I actually got possession of the car, bought it, and really thought it was such a magnificent original car, but it was starting to deteriorate a little. And for various reasons, I did let the car go, and it went to a very good car collection, and it was fully restored, and I've seen pictures of it. It's really well done, and a car that really deserves a lot of accolades, I think. The car that I didn't see on the list but was an interesting car that I bought was the 1956 Chrysler Ghia Dark Diablo. About that was really the purchase of the car and the fact that I flew to New York to see the car. And when I was brought into the office of the gentleman that owned the car, he shook my hand. We sat down, and he took off his jacket and took his gun out of his shoulder holster and then took off his shoulder holster. We proceeded to make a deal, but it was kind of interesting, and he was a real character. But that's how it is with the concept cars. There's always a good story. Unfortunately, when I started to do this project for Ken Gross, I started to do recordings and doing setups for the video. And Ken told me 10 to 12 minutes at the most. And recently he told me 10 minutes. Well, when I went over my initial video, it was like 30 minutes. I thought it was short. So I've cut it down quite a bit. But I want everybody to know, if you have any questions on any Ghia cars, please let me get a phone call from you or an email. I'll be happy to answer it. And of course, the final car that I want to mention is the Chrysler Ghia Falcon. And to me, that was Virgil Exner's best design. When you see it, I think you can appreciate it. Some people like other pieces of his work as their best opinion of his design qualities, but that was my favorite Ghia car, and that was the one that I finally kept. And I think you'll be really amazed tomorrow to see all these cars on display, because Virgil Exner was one of the finest post-war designers, I think, that existed from the 1950s till the turn of the century in terms of comparing his cars to any of the cars that were made during that period. I wish I was there with you, and I hope that I'll hear from a lot of you, and please enjoy the show tomorrow. And for some of you that know me well, please let me know what I missed. Thank you very much.